Hey folks, welcome back to Dustin Disc. In this video, we're going to be breaking down an unsanctioned tournament that I played at the University of South Alabama. It was a fundraiser tournament for I guess you could call it, company called Tomahawk Dyes that's going to be running a bigger sanctioned event later on in the year. And so this was them kind of raising funds for that bigger tournament. And so it was a fun 2 rounds at the University of Alabama course. It was the course that I obviously just did a really long video showing all the different tees and holes, including a tent pole that was used for this tournament. And I played MA2 in this event because I wanted to play off of the white tees, and the TD for this event had MA3 playing off of reds. And so to keep consistent with what I'm used to, I just decided to step up and play MA2. I believe there was between 12 and 15 players in my division. To go ahead and get some excuses out of the way, because that's always the fun thing to do, it was very, very cold. I think we teed off the first round. It was probably like 34 degrees Fahrenheit, so just above freezing. And it only really got up to maybe 40, 42 before the day was done. And I know that for a lot of people out there, it's really not that cold. But for me, it was. I'm not used to playing in that. For one, I'm not used to playing in long sleeves. Like, I always play in short sleeves and stuff like that. And also, it was very windy. Probably, 15-mile-per-hour winds a lot of the time. Sometimes you get to like 20-mile-per-hour gust or so. It was very windy and very cold. And so it made getting a good grip tough at times. And it just made, dealing with disc flights tougher at times. And without further ado, we're going to jump into it. Before we do, please post in the comments below. Do you prefer me giving commentary like this over top of my tournament footage, or would you prefer me just dropping the tournament footage with maybe, like the score and all that good stuff? Let me know. I'm a commentator, so like by default, this is what I like to do, but maybe you'd rather just see play and not hear any talking. Obviously, I talk during the practice rounds and stuff because I can, but during a tournament, I'm not going to talk while I'm filming. I got people on the card with me. I'm trying to focus, so on and so forth. And so I kind of get to do that, I feel like, with these recap discussions with you all. But just let me know. But anyway, we're starting off on hole 7. Pretty long, uphill. Right now, I'm just trying to look to get a par on this hole. First tee shot. A little nervous, but I threw a really good shot here. I was pretty happy with this. This is about what I expect. I drifted a little more left than I wanted to, so I have a little bit in my way. But usually I am over here, and I usually can just throw a forehand up and get my par. But I did not throw that forehand well. I don't know if it was just me not getting a good grip on it or me just throwing it low, or I made a mistake. And so I left myself with a good 35 to 40-foot putt here, which is not how you want to start your tournament. So I'm going to miss that. I want a bogey in this hole. So this is hole 8. Par 4. Normally, I would go for this, but it was so windy that I decided to lay up on this right-hand side rather than try to throw the big, like, 325 feet or so I would need to get past that light pole and get in the fairway. So I get a good layup, pretty much where I want. Now, I decided to actually go for this. I throw a distance driver here, just trying to get all the way up there. This would have been about a 360-foot shot or so to be able to get to the basket from where I was. And in the wind and such, I just didn't quite get all the way there. But I still had like a 40 to 50-foot putt here to maybe get a birdie. And it wasn't a terrible bid. A little too wide right. But I wound up par in that hole. So right now we're 1 over. Next hole. First real power forehand. And yeah, the headwind absolutely ripped that. You can kind of see those flags waving on the red tee. It was definitely just wrecked my disc. So now I have a very tricky approach. But I throw a nice little chip forehand with the zone, get up there, and I wind up par in that hole. This is the kind of a trickier tunnel shot, par 4. I threw really low, but I hit the gap and stayed really straight. So that's about what I can ask for on this hole. I'm still very far away. So I'm just trying to hug this kind of right side of the fairway and just try to push something fairly straight. I don't want to fade too far left because there's that OB parking lot over there. So I decided to kind of hang something towards the right side, but unfortunately, I just didn't throw a stable enough disc, and I kind of get caught up in the thickness. Leaves me with this very, very fun scramble. I think I wound up bogey in this hole, so now I'm like 2 over par on the round at this point. Very next hole. Trying to hit this right gap over here. And just had something fade left over this little hill to get to the basket. And as you can see, just a little too right. Just barely kissed the left side of that tree, but I still have a chance to pitch up for par here. So I just kind of throw a little jump putt over the hill, try to set myself up for a pretty easy par putt. And as you can see, I mean, I'm right next to the basket. This is very routine par putt for me, or at least it should be. And all right, on to the next hole. Threw this one way left of where I wanted to. I had the right line as far as the left to right play I wanted, but I hung it out too left. But luckily, I at least got up the fairway and was able to basically just do like kind of a weird jump putt bid and get up there and give myself a par on that hole. This is the 10th hole. Again, ripping headwind. Try to throw a more overstable disc on a forehand, but she gone. She OB. So now I got this. This is throwing 3. I do finally get in there, but still very far away from the basket. This is a very long putt. This would be for a bogey right here. And nah. So that's going to be a double bogey. So things are not going so well. Just trying to have a little fun with the friend on the card. I tried to lighten the mood a bit after having a tough one. Now we're on the par 4 13. Very tricky hole. Very controversial hole in the local community. Just try to throw like a nice little flex forehand. Stay kind of center of the fairway as best I can, but catch that tree. Unfortunate. Still have a chance, though. Try to throw something wide right and try to go around the corner, but I did not swing that out enough, and so I get caught up in the corner. And so now this is never a good sign, me having to throw overhand. And I got out, but I only went about 30 feet forward, so this is me. Once again, very long attempt. This will be for par, I think. Yes, this would be for par. But nah. So that's another bogey. Then we skipped the hole, but it was hole 14 where the water's on the left, and I bogeyed that hole as well because I went OB off the tee. So this is hole 15, par 4. And this was a constant problem I had all day. My forehands were all over the place. All of them were overturned. All of them were flying less overstable than I wanted. And my height control was bad. That one was too low. This one was too high. And again, I'm trying to show you the reality. I'm not just trying to show you all the highlights and all the good things. I'm showing you a little bit of everything. And now I'm on a hillside, weird footing, trying to make something magical happen to maybe save this par, and again, way too high. And at this point, I'm just like, go ahead and roll out of bounds. Yeah, go ahead. And it didn't. So I wound up taking either a bogey or double bogey on that hole, so it's not going well. Very next hole. And this one I executed really well. Finally got a forehand to work. Skipped well. Center fairway. Very easy pitch up to this elevated basket to get a par. So pretty happy about this one. And still a nervy putt, though, because of it, being way up there. It's just obviously different than most baskets, so still need to be careful. But I got it done, so I parred that hole, and that felt good. Now we're on hole 17. You can see there's a lot of OB on the left-hand side, so I'm trying to play out to the right, avoid the OB line, but still get up there. I threw a fairway driver, which is kind of fast, and this got scary. And as you can see, it skips and just skips under the basket. Let's take a look at this again. This was a really close call. This is a really good line, really good flight. Ugh, but I thought it went out of bounds. I really did, but as you can see, just barely over the line. And that's my friend. He's joking around. It's fine. Don't worry. All good. As the whole card agreed that, I was in bounds, but just barely. Maybe like an inch of my disc was in the fairway. And so I have a pretty short birdie putt. This will be my first birdie of the tournament at this point, and desperately needed since I've been bogeying all over the place at this point. Now hole 18, I'm riding the high of finally getting a birdie on 17. This is another hole that I can usually birdie with a good skip forehand shot. And nah. Nope. The ups and downs of disc golf. So I just kind of chip up. Still walk away with the par. So we take those. Now we're on the hole 1 from 18. Again, just looking to get a par here. Usually don't have the distance to get all the way up there to get a circle 1 putt. And a little more left than I wanted to be, but I still got up the fairway a good bit. Gave myself a jump putt approach to set up for the par. And yep, that's good. So that's another par for me. Didn't catch a tee shot on film on this hole, but didn't have a good one. So I have a little bit of a tricky approach with that low ceiling, but I get up there and set myself up for another par putt. And there we have it. And now we skipped the several holes here because I basically parred the next 3 holes, which was 2, 3, and 4. And so now we're on hole 5. I know the sign says 9, but that's because it used to be 9. So now this is actually our last hole of the first round. And as you can see, the wind was kicking, as it had been all day, bounced it around. But I was safe, landing in the tall grass, and I wound up parring that hole. And so at this point, don't have like the PDGA live or anything like that because this was unsanctioned. So I don't have a like scorecard to really show you because it was all on paper and I don't have it. But I basically shot, I think, 6 or 7 over par that round. It was like a par 61 course with the 19 holes, and I think I shot a 68 or a 67 or something like that. And at that point, I was, I think, tied for 5th or something because I wasn't on lead card, but I was tied with one of the other players on the chase card. I think there was like another tie on lead card for 2nd. I don't know. So I was essentially, I think I was 5 strokes off 1st, and I was only like 2 strokes off 2nd or something like that. It was pretty tight. So there's still a chance to maybe get on the podium. You know, first place is, unless that person really blows up and I shoot super hot, that probably wasn't going to happen. But I felt like I could maybe still get in top 3 because it's only a couple strokes behind a podium finish. And so we start this time on hole 8. And at this point, I was filming it by myself. So the zoom ins and all that good stuff is going to be a lot worse. So bear with me on that. As once again, I just decided to lay this hole up. Don't do as good of a job on the actual layup, but I do get it up there. So as you can see, I have like a much trickier situation with this tree, and I did not get that out at all. But that's, you know, decent enough. From there, I wound up throwing this forehand, which landed here. It hit this root. Otherwise, it would have skipped forward into circle 1 and gave me like a pretty easy par putt. But instead, I like caught one of these roots. I don't know if it was this one or this one, but I caught it and it kicked me left. And at this point, I'm like 60 feet from the basket. And I wasn't filming that approach shot or this putt, but I did do a little bit of a reenactment where I was about here, straddle putting, and I actually made it. Huge putt. Just didn't film it. So I actually want to par in this hole, despite all of the tough ones that I was dealing with. Wanted to get a little bit of revenge on this hole, so I threw a safer shot, but cut my distance, so did not really give me a chance to birdie. I don't usually birdie this hole anyway, so I didn't really care. I just wanted an easier par. And, you know, maybe an outside chance at like a long jump putt. But, yeah. Just went up par on that hole. And, okay, so we skipped hole 10, the tunnel shot again, because I stepped in front of the camera so that you couldn't really see my flight anyway. But I wound up, I think, bogeying the hole again, like taking a 5 on it. Or maybe I parred it, I can't remember. Either way, I played it pretty decently. Now, this is the next hole, 11. This is for par, because I was short of the mound off the tee, and then like just threw like a pitch up. It was very similar to what I had done on this exact hole in the first round. And then this is my par putt. And we'll try to frame it. I mean, it's a little right, but, I mean, this camera angle doesn't really show the true picture because of how the camera's angled. Because if you look, like, from here to here, it's basically straight on the pole. So, I mean, I threw this pretty dead center. It's not as far right as it looks because of the camera angle. If the camera had been behind me instead of off to the side, you would see that I was right at the pole, basically. So don't call me out in the comments. I promise you this is pretty much centered. And I had a card mate standing behind me watching the putt and agreed that this was just really unlucky. Bounce out. So I wound up bogeying that hole. Now we skipped 12, which I parred, I believe. Then the 10th hole I double bogeyed again. 13 I actually wound up parring this round, but I just didn't film any of it. So this is 14. I went OB in the water over here. Didn't film it, though. and wound up taking like a bogey. So this time I'm trying to get some revenge. And yeah, I threw a really good shot here. I was only like about 8 feet away from the basket. Get a birdie there. Skip 15. I bogeyed that again. But it was basically a repeat of what I had done the last round. So you're not missing anything. But this is hole 16 again. And again, I pure it. I was crushing this particular hole. And so here's where I landed. I got even further up the fairway than I did the last time, I think. So even easier pitch up for par. And I kind of yanked that one left a little bit, but I still wound up making the par putt. Didn't film it, but I did make it. Card mates can confirm if they get in the YouTube content. And then here's hole 17, the next hole. Didn't show the drive, but this is my birdie putt. I dissed down because I almost went OB in the first round. And, I mean, little number plate action. I don't know if you can see this, by the way. I kind of want to rewind just a little bit. I'll see if I can find a good moment to show you this. In the background of me trying to putt, I don't know if I can try to pause it at the right time. Maybe when I like start to crouch down the putt, you'll see this. Yeah, bruh. This, in the list of weirdest disc golf distractions I can think of, in the background of me trying to putt, there was a girl with one of these like things tied to a tree, like this circus Olay like blanket things that people like twirl into and untwirl, like wind and unwind, and like, yeah, that was in the background of my putt. Just saying, that was, of all the razzing that you could come across, that one got me. And yeah, I just threw a little too high. Good line, but a little too high, hits the number plate, and so I settled for a par on that one. Then we basically go into a sequence of many, many more pars. After that, I parred 18, I parred 1, I parred 2, I parred 3, I parred 4, I parred 5, and now we're on the last 2 holes of this round. This is the water carry hole, hole 6, and I thought I was going left OB, and I'm standing in the way, but it hit something and rolled out right. And so I'll try to go back and kind of show you. But it basically landed, like, let's say over here, where you can't really see because these trees are blocking it. And I actually made the putt for birdie. It wasn't a very long putt. It was like a 20, 25-foot putt for birdie. I actually made it. So that was cool. Then this is the last hole of the round we're going on to now. Last hole of the round, hole 7. And unfortunately, someone kind of steps in front of this, so you can't really see it. But I'll let you see at least the beginning of the flight. You can see it's basically up the middle and then fading left. And I basically land in a similar spot to what I had done in the first round. As you'll see here in a second, here I am. And this time, I actually execute the forehand approach properly. Can't really see it too well, sorry. Didn't have anyone zooming in for me. But you'll see here in a second, the forehand I threw there was very close to the basket. So I wound up tapping in for a par to finish things out at this event. And so on this round, I shot 2 strokes better than the first round. So like I said, I think I shot 7 over in the first round and 5 over the second round. It was either that or I shot 6 over and then 4 over. Something like that. I just know there was like a 2-stroke improvement. And really the main things were is I double bogeyed that 10th hole between 12 and 13 both rounds. And then I bogeyed 15 both rounds. And I think I bogeyed hole 10 both rounds. So basically 2 or 3 holes out of the 19 is really what crushed my score. I parred a lot. I just didn't birdie very often either. I didn't really give myself a lot of like circle 1 putts for birdie. It was a lot of circle 2 jump putts and such. And yeah, it was a tough one. But in the end, I had a good time. Unsanctioned. It was good practice, good experience. And yeah, hope you folks enjoyed this video. Just kind of running you through a couple of rounds of an unsanctioned event I played at the University of South Alabama. Showed you some good and some bad, and a little bit in between, some average. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. More content will be coming in the future. If you're curious, I think I finished pretty much where I was at after the first round. I didn't really move position on the chase card. I think the lead exchanged on the lead card, but I pretty much stayed in kind of that 5th, 6th position out of the 12 to 13 or whatever players that were there. So kind of in the middle of the pack, kind of what I expected after having a tough round. I kind of knew that I wasn't going to jump up any. I would have needed to have shot like really well to have, you know, been able to get to third place or something like that. But, you know, it was a good time. And again, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to catch you next time. Peace.